Hello amateurs. During this Six Nations I've been having a lot of fun selecting my Lions 15 based purely on performance during this Six Nations, and I'm going to continue that again today. Fourth round of fixtures has just gone. The Irish suffered a heavy defeat. Will some of their players be going down the pecking order? Wins for England and Scotland and an encouraging performance for Wales. Will there some of their players be going upwards? Let's get into it. But before we do, let's check out where we were at after the third weekend of fixtures. My team was Genge, Sheehan, Stewart, Itoje, Byrne, Tom Curry, Jack Morgan, Caelan Doris, Gibson Park and Russell, Aki and Jones in the centres, James Lowe and Tommy Freeman on the wings, and Blair Kinghorn at fullback. Okay, let's go through it position by position and see who the risers are and see who the fallers are. In the loosehead position, we had Sutherland, Thomas, Smith, Porter, Genge and Schumann, and Rory Sutherland, I think, has probably dropped out of contention now. He didn't really show up too much for Scotland towards the end of that game. Gareth Thomas has been on the bench and he haven't really had the opportunity. Nicky Smith continued to go well. Andrew Porter was very, very solid against the French. I don't think he gave away any scrum penalties. And Genge had a very useful game against the Italians, but wasn't quite right at his best. But the big winner this week, I think, is Pierre Schumann, who had his best game of the tournament. He's been kind of solid up to now, but I think this game takes him to the top of that list and he goes in at number one for me and my Lions 15. Onto the hooker slot. Kelleher didn't play with injury. Ashman, not the best performance. Jamie George had a good, solid game on his 100th. Dan Sheehan in a tight, hard game against the French where things were very difficult for lots of time, but he played well. His endeavour, his effort was unstinting. So for me, he stays at number 2 in my Lions 15. Onto the tight head shirt, and Will Griff-John was up on the ropes as a late contender, but the scrum didn't go quite as well for the Welsh this week, with Schumann, as I mentioned, going well against him, and he gave away that dumb penalty. So for me, he's out of contention now. Back in contention, though, is Fagerson, who also had a very good game for the Scots, and he's growing nicely. Bealham went well, but just a little bit missing, I guess, for the Irish. You didn't see him a huge amount, but somebody we did see a lot of was Will Stewart for England, who scrummed really well, did some great stuff in the loose, including that incredible bit of footwork before the Marcus Smith try. So it's Will Stewart. He stays in at number 3 for me. The second rows, James Ryan came off the bench. Daft Jenkins put in another enormous shift in the second row for the Welsh. Oh, man, if he just had a little bit more size and just a little bit more grunt about him, like he could genuinely be a world-class player. I wonder if that will come as he gets a little bit older and grows into his body a little bit more. He's an unbelievable talent, though. Joe McCarthy had moments for the Irish, but let himself down with that yellow card and discipline. So for me, it's Maro Itoje, who continues in the number 4 jersey. The other second row, Ollie Chesham, another great game for England this week. He is showing up. He's fixed England's line-out woes. He's all over the place in the loose, so fast around the pitch, a good carrier, good tackler. He's pushing hard, but not quite hard enough. For me, Ty Byrne is still, over the whole championship, the best number 5 in this competition. His work rate, his intelligence, as much as anything as well. His work around the breakdown is outstanding, so he is holding on to the number 5. Blindside flanker. Fagerson was on the bench this week. Jack Conan came on off the bench as well. Not quite the impact this week that he's had before. Jamie Ritchie, another solid game for the Scots and gnaws at the breakdown, but it's Tom Curry. It's still Tom Curry. He was outstanding again for England. Got another try, a ton of turnovers, tackles like an absolute truck. The only thing that's slowing him down at the moment is that he seems to limp off every single game. But for me, it's still Tom Curry in the number 6 jersey. And on to the number 7 shirt. And this is one that is possibly the hardest to call still. Although for me, it's getting easier. Darge was great while he was on the pitch, but went off after about 30 minutes for the Scots. Van der Fleer was less effective for the Irish against that huge French onslaught. Ben Earl and Ben Curry both did good things for England in the number 7 role. Ben Curry, I think in particular, actually has had a really excellent championship. But Jack Morgan just continues to confound. He is an unbelievable player. As I said, I would happily have any one of these five as my Lions test starter in the number 7 jersey, genuinely. But for me, Jack Morgan's just raised himself to another level again this week. I thought he was outstanding again for the Welsh. His ability at the breakdown, his carrying, whether in tight or wide channels, his tackling, he's just a machine, an absolute machine. And he's got tough competition there, but I think he's now in the lead for the number 7 jersey. Jack Willis had another solid game, but he's only playing about 50 minutes. Dempsey went very well for the Scots. We saw him a lot more in the loose in that more sort of open game against the Welsh. Faletau, unbelievable. If that try had been scored in the 76th minute or whatever it was, it would have been game on and it would have been just reward for him for another quality performance. But Caelan Doris, in adversity against the French, turned up with a load of turnovers. His work rate's insane. Still carrying the ball really, really hard as well. So again, across the whole championship, he's still the number 8 for me. Outstanding from Caelan Doris. Into the number 9 shirt, and somebody we haven't mentioned before actually, and I'm not quite sure why. Ben White, the Scottish scrum half, has been playing really consistently well, and he's kind of understated, so sometimes maybe you wouldn't notice him, but he's very efficient. He gets the ball to Russell sharp and early, and that allows him to do his stuff. So he comes into contention. Mitchell had a better game at the weekend. England played more rugby. It allowed him to snipe. He got better quality possession, so we saw some of the better parts of Mitchell's game. Thomas Williams was good. Couple of defensive mistakes though for me, which keeps him a little bit down. And Gibson Park struggled because there just wasn't the quality of ball. And this is it for scrum halves. Quite often, it's their attacking play is really dependent on the quality of the ball that they get. So Gibson Park still though, across the whole championship, you've got to say he's still number 1. His defensive work, his effort, his communication, all of that stuff, everything, his all-round game is still the best for me across this championship. So, number 9, Jemison, Gibson Park. Finn Russell took over last week from Prendergast in my team. Jack Crowley's not had a chance. He got brought on at 12. Finn Smith, I thought, had a really sort of solid, understated game for England. Just very, very calm in possession. He got put under pressure a few times and he just always seems to find his way out. So it's tough. I thought Russell probably had his best game of the tournament so far and went off when Scotland were winning 35-8. So his influence is not to be understated. Prendergast in that massive French onslaught wilted a tiny bit, but he came back and he was still playing all the way to the end, and you can definitely not fault his effort whatsoever. But for me, Finn Russell keeps that number 10 jersey. The number 11 slot, and Slytone maybe comes into contention now with his 2 tries at the weekend, but he's had a bit of a dodgy game as well and didn't play in the first one, so it'd be tough to get him in there. Ellis Mee was okay in the second game for Wales. A couple of defensive moments where potentially could have been better. James Lowe, of course, didn't play, which means that he can't push his case forward. But somebody that did push their case forward was Duhan van der Merwe, who I thought was really excellent for Scotland. He's now bringing in this ability to create for others, to see space, not just a finisher himself. So for that reason, and it's tough on James Lowe in his absence, but van der Merwe just goes ahead of him now for me, based on this Six Nations, into the number 11 jersey. New contender at number 12, Fraser Dingle into the England team. He had a very solid outing, but can't really consider him for selection. Ben Thomas, another nice game, but he just didn't show up quite as much as he did against the Irish. Tom Jordan, I thought, was great for the Scots. Although, again, I think a couple of the Welsh tries were down his channel and possibly down to either a bad decision or just didn't quite get his tackle technique right. So attacking side of the game from Jordan, I'm a big fan of. I'd like to see him just tidy up those defensive bits. The other player in this shirt, he had Aki, had the shirt last week, and he did not have his best game for Ireland. He looked very quiet. We barely saw him. He got a boot in the face early doors, and he didn't show up too much after that at all, and got subbed off after about 50 minutes for Jack Crowley. However, this is across the whole championship, so I still think he's the best player across this whole championship in the number 12 jersey. And you don't see quiet performances like that from Bundy Aki very often. So I'm going to back him to come back and have a if he gets picked. Have a big one this weekend. But in any case, he stays in the number 12 jersey for me. Number 13, another decent outing for Llewellyn for Wales. Ringrose was suspended, so he couldn't play this week. Ollie Lawrence completely out of contention with his Achilles injury, so that's one gone. It was Hugh Jones before this weekend. It continues to be Hugh Jones. He is playing really well. All the classy stuff that you expect from him. Defensively very sound and physical as well on the ball. He's definitely the best 13 in this championship now. The right wing, Rogers went off injured. Carl Rowe was on the bench. Darcy Graham back for Scotland and played really well. He just creates things. He just looks lively. Stuff happens around him because of how dangerous he is. Hansen missed out this week with injury, but Tommy Freeman on the right wing for England created tries for others. He scored a try himself, still imperious in the air. And for me, he keeps his slot on the 14 jersey. At fullback, Blair Murray for Wales had a couple of dodgy moments defensively and in the air, but he was great when he gets the ball in his hands. England don't really have a fullback contender at the moment because they chop and change. Daly started this week and it ended up being Marcus again. Keenan did okay against the French, certainly didn't shirk anything, but for me, Blair Kinghorn had another quality game. He had the shirt already, and there's no reason for me to not continue with Blair Kinghorn in the 15 jersey. Okay, that's what I think. That is my Lions 15 after 4 rounds of the 2025 Six Nations. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Just give me one name of a player that you think should definitely be in this 15 based on performances in this Six Nations Championship. I'd love to hear from you. Give this video a thumbs up while you're down there if you don't mind. Helps other people find it, and you can subscribe there. You can watch that one next, and don't forget to get out and play.